The sky over Earth turned an unusual shade of green as millions of people looked up in fear and confusion. Across the world, satellites began sending strange readings, and news channels were flooded with images of enormous shapes hovering silently above the clouds. Nobody knew what they were, but everyone could feel the tension in the air. Scientists rushed to understand the anomaly, but even the most experienced minds were baffled. The shapes in the sky were too large, too precise, and moved in ways no known technology could explain. Governments called emergency meetings, trying to decide if this was a peaceful visit or the beginning of something far worse. On the coasts, fishermen and sailors reported odd waves forming in the oceans below the hovering ships. The water moved like it was alive, swirling and glowing under the faint green light that reflected from the ships. People watched in terror as entire coastlines were blanketed in shadows, and yet no sound came from above. Then, the first broadcasts of panic appeared. Cities in Asia and Europe reported strange power surges, communication breakdowns, and flickering lights that made night feel like day. In New York, the lights of Times Square blinked out, and thousands froze in place, staring upward. Children clung to their parents, and emergency sirens wailed in the distance. The world had never seen anything like this, and deep down, everyone understood that humanity was being tested in ways it had never imagined. Scientists called the event the arrival, though nobody knew who had arrived or why. In underground labs, researchers pored over data from satellites and weather stations, looking for patterns in the strange behavior of the alien ships. They found that the ships were not just hovering. They were scanning, analyzing, and somehow communicating with each other through beams of light that crisscrossed the sky. The intelligence behind these ships was beyond human comprehension, and yet the humans watching the sky refused to look away. Children whispered in fear, and adults tried to comfort them, though their own hearts were racing. Governments sent fleets of aircraft to approach the ships, but as they drew near, the plane's instruments failed, and pilots reported seeing visions that were impossible to explain. Some said the sky seemed to bend, others said they felt weightless, and a few claimed they could hear faint whispers inside their own heads. The world realized that these visitors were not like any enemy humanity had faced before. They were powerful, advanced, and patient, and the humans could do nothing but watch. Meanwhile, in the oceans, strange phenomena began to appear. Water started to rise unnaturally in massive waves, glowing with an eerie light that reflected the green glow of the ships above. Marine animals fled in panic, and coastal cities braced for impact. Scientists warned that this was not a normal tidal change. It was something directed, something alive with intelligence. Panic spread quickly. Social media exploded with videos, photos, and theories, but nobody could confirm what the aliens wanted. People started to evacuate low-lying cities, but the alien ships moved silently, almost as if they were waiting for something. In laboratories, some researchers began to suspect that the aliens had come not for conquest, but to test humanity. But what kind of test could it be if entire nations might be destroyed? Military leaders debated, but even the most seasoned generals admitted that their weapons were useless against these ships. Rockets and missiles vanished before reaching the targets, and electronic systems failed without explanation. People on the streets prayed, shouted, and ran, but there was no place safe from the eyes in the sky. Then, as the sun began to set, the ships shifted. They descended closer to the oceans, and a strange sound, like a deep hum, echoed over the continents. The water in the oceans began to churn violently, rising in enormous spirals, as if the planet itself was being pulled into the sky. Cities braced, and the humans watched in awe and fear. No one could understand how something so alien could control nature itself. In underground bunkers, scientists and leaders met secretly to discuss survival plans. They realized that this was not just a threat, it was a challenge, and humanity had to respond, not with fear, but with intelligence. Across the globe, ordinary people started to show courage in small acts, rescuing neighbors, securing food and water, and trying to understand what was happening. The alien ships remained silent, yet every human could feel their presence, like a shadow over the earth, waiting for the right moment to act. As night fell, the green glow from the ships painted the oceans and cities in an otherworldly light. Humanity was awake, alert, and frightened, but not yet defeated. Somewhere deep in the darkness, people whispered about hope, about fighting back, and about surviving the impossible. The world had faced threats before, but nothing like this. The aliens had arrived with power beyond imagination, and Earth had only one choice: to endure, adapt, and survive whatever came next. The arrival had begun, and humanity would never be the same again. The world barely had time to breathe after the arrival when the first wave of the alien hydro weapon hit. It began quietly, almost unnoticed, as strange ripples formed across the oceans. At first, sailors and coastal residents thought it was an unusual tide, but soon the water started rising faster than any storm or tsunami could. Massive waves, taller than skyscrapers, crashed onto cities without warning, swallowing buildings and roads in seconds. In Tokyo, the harbor disappeared beneath a glowing green tide, and ships were tossed like toys. In New York, the East River rose violently, flooding streets and subways, forcing people to climb to rooftops for safety. Across the world, humans watched in disbelief as the oceans themselves seemed to have turned against them. Scientists struggled to understand what was happening. Instruments failed, measurements were impossible, and yet the patterns were too precise to be natural. The water moved as if it were alive, responding to the unseen commands of the alien ships above. Panic swept through every continent. Governments tried to organize evacuations, but the speed and intelligence of the attack made every plan useless. Roads collapsed under the water's pressure, bridges crumbled, and communication lines went dead. People ran blindly through flooded streets, calling for loved ones, but many were swept away before help could arrive. Military forces tried to strike the alien ships, but their weapons did nothing. Missiles disintegrated in midair, radar systems jammed, and even fighter jets reported strange sensations in the cockpit, as if the sky itself had become hostile. In the midst of this chaos, ordinary humans began showing courage. Firefighters, rescue teams, and volunteers worked tirelessly, saving hundreds from drowning and collapsing buildings. Communities formed impromptu shelters on higher ground, using every resource they could find to survive. The aliens' weapon did not discriminate, but humanity's determination refused to falter. Across the oceans, strange phenomena began to appear. The water glowed with an eerie light, and creatures of the deep swam frantically, fleeing the unnatural waves. Some scientists speculated that the aliens had manipulated the ocean's natural energy, turning the planet's own water into a weapon. The tides were no longer predictable. They moved with purpose, striking wherever the aliens intended. In underground bunkers, leaders and scientists watched in horror as the weapon continued its assault. Maps lit up with destruction, showing the paths of the deadly water. The numbers of casualties climbed, yet no human could stop staring at the screens, trying desperately to find a weakness. Children cried, parents prayed, and yet a quiet determination spread among survivors. Humanity was learning, even in the midst of chaos. Then, the waves began to show strange patterns. In some areas, humans discovered that the water moved around certain buildings or communities as if it avoided them. Scientists noticed that some technology or energy sources seemed to repel the water temporarily. This discovery, though small, sparked hope. Across the world, humans started experimenting, using makeshift barriers, energy shields, and even natural formations to survive the alien hydro weapon. Every rescue, every clever solution, every act of courage inspired others. News channels, when they worked, showed humans swimming through floods to save neighbors, coordinating by hand signals when radios failed. Entire communities built floating rafts, linking together to protect as many people as possible. Even as the weapon continued, humans adapted faster than the aliens expected. The aliens, watching from above, seemed patient. Their weapon did not stop, but there was no sign of a second phase yet. Humanity could only guess at their intentions, but every survivor knew they had to endure. In the midst of this chaos, small victories emerged. A coastal city in Brazil survived a tidal wave by using high cliffs and quick evacuation. An island community in Indonesia managed to redirect the glowing water using old volcanic channels, saving thousands. These stories spread across the globe, igniting hope and proving that humans could survive even the deadliest attack. Yet the danger was far from over. Scientists warned that the alien weapon was far from finished and could strike again at any moment. The water's glow seemed to pulse with intelligence, as if it were alive, and no one could predict where it would hit next. Humanity had survived the first strike, but every person knew that survival was only the beginning. The alien ships remained silent in the sky, observing, calculating, waiting for the right moment. In homes, shelters, and bunkers, humans whispered about what they had seen, about the courage of their neighbors, and about the strange glowing water that refused to destroy some, yet almost killed others. Across the oceans, emergency broadcasts warned of aftershocks, of smaller tidal surges that could still sweep away towns. But people no longer panicked. They acted, they fought back, and they survived. The first strike of the alien hydro weapon had been devastating, but humanity had endured. They had learned quickly, adapted to the impossible, and refused to be defeated. The world had changed forever, but humans were still alive, and the aliens above had to take notice. As the waves settled for the night, glowing faintly under the green light of the alien ships, humans on rooftops, cliffs, and rafts looked up, not with fear, but with determination. The battle had only begun, but Earth had proven that even against the deadliest weapon, humanity could survive, adapt, and prepare to fight back. The hydro strike had tested them, but humans were ready for the challenges that would come next, stronger, smarter, and united against the alien threat. After the first devastating hydro strike, the world was in chaos. Cities lay in ruins, oceans glowed with strange energy, and millions of people had lost their homes. Yet, despite the destruction, humanity began to show its unexpected resilience. Survivors in flooded cities worked together, building makeshift shelters on rooftops and higher ground. They used debris, furniture, and even abandoned vehicles to create barriers against the rising waters. Across the globe, communities communicated through hand signals, flares, and messengers when radios and internet failed. Ordinary people performed extraordinary acts of bravery, rescuing neighbors, helping children, and sharing scarce food and water. Scientists worked tirelessly in underground labs, analyzing data from the alien ships and the hydro weapon. They discovered patterns in the glowing waves, noticing that some areas were strangely unaffected. Some buildings, energy sources, or even certain materials seemed to repel the alien water temporarily. This small discovery became the foundation for humanity's hope. Engineers and inventors began improvising, creating devices and barriers to protect people. Soldiers and volunteers formed teams to guide people to safety. Navigating through streets turned into rivers and bridges swept away. Even in the darkest moments, humans adapted. In Europe, a team of scientists discovered that the alien weapon's energy interacted strangely with salt concentrations in the water. By redirecting small amounts of water using canals and pumps, they could reduce its impact on certain areas. In Africa, villagers used old irrigation systems to channel water safely away from their homes, protecting hundreds of lives. News of these successes spread quickly, inspiring others to act. Across the world, people realized that fear alone could not save them. Only courage, intelligence, and teamwork could. Children learned quickly to recognize safe zones. Elderly citizens shared wisdom from past disasters, and strangers became allies in the fight to survive. Military leaders, who had once felt powerless, began to notice humanity's unexpected strength. Small squads of soldiers helped coordinate evacuations, using boats, helicopters, and even improvised rafts to reach those trapped by the rising tides. Across Asia, communities combined local knowledge with scientific advice, building floating platforms and securing supplies in ways the aliens could not predict. The alien ships hovered silently above, watching, analyzing, and perhaps underestimating the humans below. Each wave of destruction was met with human ingenuity. Engineers created energy shields, simple but effective, using materials that disrupted the alien hydro weapon's energy. Villages that would have been lost survived because people learned quickly, adapted, and worked together. In South America, volunteers created human chains to rescue families from rooftops as glowing green water surged through the streets. Their bravery inspired nearby towns to do the same. The aliens unleashed the hydro weapon with precision, yet humans found ways to exploit its weaknesses. Where it expected chaos, it met organization. Where it expected panic, it met courage. And where it expected fear, it found determination. Scientists realized that the aliens might not fully understand human biology. People were resilient in ways the weapon could not destroy completely. Communities that stayed united, thinking creatively, and helping each other, survived even the strongest waves. In shelters and bunkers, survivors shared stories of hope, teaching each other how to read the water, predict its movements, and prepare for the next strike. Children, who had watched horror and destruction, began to see themselves as part of a larger human effort to endure. Every act of survival, every small victory, strengthened humanity's spirit. Across the oceans, strange energy currents from the weapon began to show irregularities. Scientists believed the human adaptation was somehow interfering with the alien hydro weapon's efficiency. Every clever solution, every improvised barrier, every human act of bravery created unexpected resistance against the aliens' plan. The world was not safe, but humans were proving that survival was possible. Leaders, scientists, and civilians realized that the key to enduring the alien threat was unity. Nations that had once been divided came together to share resources, knowledge, and strategies. Humans communicated with urgency and purpose, improvising with what they had. They refused to be victims. The aliens had unleashed their most powerful weapon, yet humanity's unexpected resilience turned fear into action. Across flooded cities, survivors created signals to warn others, improvised rafts to transport supplies, and small energy shields to protect vital infrastructure. Even animals seemed to respond to human courage, fleeing in ways that allowed humans to guide them to safety. The alien ships above continued to watch, perhaps surprised, perhaps calculating, but humans below were no longer helpless. They had learned quickly, adapted to impossible circumstances, and demonstrated the very essence of survival. As night fell over the devastated cities and glowing oceans, humanity did not surrender. Instead, they prepared, strengthened by the knowledge that even the deadliest alien weapon could be resisted through courage, intelligence, and unity. The world had endured the hydro strike, and humanity had proven that it was not just fragile flesh and bone. It was clever, adaptable, and unbroken. The aliens had underestimated the human spirit, and that mistake would have consequences in the battles yet to come. Humanity had survived the first wave of destruction, and they would continue to fight, adapt, and endure whatever the alien invaders could unleash next. After surviving the hydro strike and learning to adapt, humanity realized that survival alone was not enough. The alien ships still hovered above Earth, silent and calculating, and their hydro weapon could strike again at any moment. Scientists, military leaders, and engineers began working together in secret, forming a global plan to fight back. They called it the counterattack plan, a risky and daring strategy that could save the planet or destroy it. In underground labs and secure bunkers, teams studied every piece of data collected from the previous attacks. They examined the glowing energy in the water, the strange behavior of the waves, and the patterns in the alien ship's movements. Slowly, a theory began to emerge. The hydro weapon, powerful as it was, had weaknesses. Its energy was precise but predictable, and it could be disrupted by human ingenuity. Engineers began designing devices that could interfere with the weapon's energy, using materials scavenged from old technology, satellites, and even parts from damaged ships. Across the world, military leaders organized elite squads to execute the plan. These squads would not fight the aliens directly. They had learned that such attacks were useless. Instead, they would protect civilians, control key locations, and operate the devices that disrupted the hydro weapon. Ordinary people joined in too. Civilians trained to help with evacuation, operate machinery, and guide others to safe zones. The unity of humanity became their greatest weapon. Plans were tested on a small scale first. In coastal cities, scientists deployed devices that could redirect parts of the alien water, creating safe corridors for people to move. Engineers improved energy shields that could block the weapon temporarily. Each success built confidence and provided valuable data for the next stage. Meanwhile, the alien ships continued to observe silently. They unleashed minor waves here and there, testing humanity, but they seemed surprised by the clever resistance they encountered. They had expected fear and chaos, but instead, humans adapted, fought back, and even began turning the tide. Leaders of the counterattack plan faced countless challenges. Communication lines were unstable, supplies were limited, and time was running out. Yet, determination drove them forward. They knew that if they hesitated, Earth could be destroyed before any plan had a chance. Across continents, scientists shared findings in secret networks, connecting labs in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Patterns were mapped, weak points identified, and strategies refined. Human ingenuity moved faster than any weapon the aliens had, and slowly, hope grew. In the oceans, engineers deployed floating devices that glowed faintly, designed to interfere with the alien energy. Soldiers guided civilians through safe corridors, dodging waves that could have swept them away in seconds. In cities, rooftops became command centers, where volunteers directed operations and monitored the alien threat. Children and the elderly were protected first, but everyone had a role in the plan. The first full-scale test of the counterattack plan came when the alien ships launched a second minor wave. Humanity was ready. Devices activated, energy shields rose, and teams worked in perfect coordination. The wave hit, but it was partially redirected, saving thousands of lives. This success proved that the plan could work on a larger scale. Confidence spread. Humans realized that the alien Hydra weapon, though devastating, could be countered. Every small victory fueled determination and inspired more people to take part. Even civilians who had never seen the oceans fight back found ways to help, gathering supplies, warning neighbors, and keeping morale high. Across the globe, humans shared a single thought: they would not give up. As the plan developed, scientists discovered something astonishing. Certain energy patterns could temporarily disable parts of the alien ship's weapon systems. It was risky to test, but if successful, it could turn the battle in humanity's favor. Military leaders prepared specialized teams to execute this crucial step, knowing that failure could mean instant annihilation. Night after night, humans worked tirelessly, moving materials, setting up devices, and coordinating with others. Exhaustion was constant, but fear was no longer their master. They were fighting back, not merely surviving. The aliens above likely underestimated this determination, and that could be humanity's advantage. The counterattack plan was more than a strategy. It was a demonstration of human courage, intelligence, and unity. Every device, every barricade, every rescue operation contributed to the effort. Ordinary people had become heroes, and humanity had begun to prove that it could face even the deadliest alien weapon and endure. As the first major phase of the plan approached, tension filled every command center. Everyone knew that the aliens would react, that the Hydra weapon could strike with even greater force, and that one mistake could cost thousands of lives. Yet no one hesitated. They had survived the first attack, adapted to the impossible, and now they were ready to take the fight to the aliens. The counterattack plan was humanity's first real move against the invaders, a daring attempt to turn the tide of battle. Every human involved understood the stakes, yet their courage never wavered. The world waited, silent and tense, as the next wave of destruction approached. Humanity had learned, adapted, and prepared. The alien ships might think they had power, but Earth's people had discovered a new strength, one born from unity, intelligence, and unbroken spirit. The stage was set. The battle had only begun, but for the first time, humanity would not merely survive, they would fight back. The counterattack plan was their hope, their weapon, and their proof that humans could endure the impossible, no matter how powerful the aliens were. The day of the first major counterattack had arrived, and humanity was ready to test the full power of the counterattack plan. Across the world, teams of soldiers, engineers, and volunteers moved with precision, guided by the plans developed in secret bunkers and laboratories. The alien ships hovered silently above, glowing green under the sunlight, their presence casting massive shadows over flooded cities and oceans alike. In the coastal zones, massive waves began to rise again, but this time, humans were prepared. Energy shields flickered to life, Floating barriers redirected the alien water, and squads guided civilians to safety. Scientists monitored every movement, adjusting devices in real time, calculating angles, timing, and force. The first clash began when one of the largest alien hydro strikes approached the eastern seaboard of the United States. The waves were taller than skyscrapers, glowing with deadly green energy, but humans met them head-on. Floating barriers rose, creating channels that diverted the water away from crowded cities. Engineers triggered energy pulses that caused parts of the wave to dissipate, slowing its advance. Soldiers patrolled the channels, guiding civilians through makeshift rafts and boats, their courage inspiring everyone around them. Across the oceans, similar battles unfolded. In Europe, teams redirected the glowing water using canals and river systems, saving entire towns from destruction. In Asia, communities combined science and traditional knowledge, using terrain, levees, and clever engineering to block and divert the alien strikes. The aliens unleashed wave after wave, testing humanity's defenses, but humans adapted faster than they expected. It became clear that the aliens had underestimated human intelligence and resourcefulness. Their hydro weapon, precise and deadly, was being resisted by something they had not calculated: human ingenuity. In the skies, fighter jets attempted to approach the alien ships again, this time guided by updated plans from scientists. They carried devices designed to interfere with the ship's energy patterns. As the jets neared, energy pulses from the alien vessels tried to repel them, but humans held steady, using clever maneuvers and timing to avoid destruction. Explosions and flashes of green light lit the sky as the devices activated, causing disruptions in the alien weapon's energy. Below, civilians cheered as the giant wave slowed, diverted, or even vanished entirely in some areas. Across the world, humanity realized that they were not powerless anymore. Each wave that was countered, each strike that failed, proved the humans could fight back against the most advanced alien technology. The aliens reacted quickly, unleashing a new tactic: concentrated water beams that struck with incredible force. Entire bridges were swept away, and buildings trembled under the assault. Yet even in these moments of chaos, humans adapted. Engineers redirected some of the beams, soldiers guided people to higher ground, and communities reinforced structures with anything they could find. In South America, teams working in the Amazon used the river network to channel the alien water harmlessly into uninhabited regions, saving countless lives. Each victory, no matter how small, gave humanity the confidence to continue. As the battle continued, the aliens realized that they were facing something unexpected. Their hydro weapon, which had seemed invincible, was being challenged by humans working together, thinking creatively, and refusing to be defeated. For the first time, the invaders faced frustration, their calculations disrupted by unpredictable human behavior. Scientists discovered that the aliens' weapon could be disrupted even further by coordinated pulses and energy interference. Military leaders quickly adapted their strategy, sending teams to deploy devices in key locations across the globe. The clashes intensified. Waves crashed against floating barriers, exploding in green bursts of energy, while humans moved tirelessly, repairing, redirecting, and protecting. Civilians became part of the battle, guiding others to safety, signaling danger, and even creating improvised energy shields from scrap materials. Across continents, humanity's unity became the most powerful weapon of all. The aliens, powerful and precise as they were, could not fully predict human creativity. Every attempt to overwhelm humanity was met with resistance, improvisation, and courage. Cities that should have been destroyed remained standing, thanks to human determination. By nightfall, the world had endured the first true clash of titans. Entire nations had been tested. Waves of alien water had struck with unprecedented force, but humanity had survived, adapted, and even turned parts of the weapon back against its creators. Across rooftops, cliffs, and floating platforms, humans watched the glowing green waves retreat, knowing that this was only the beginning. The aliens above were still calculating, still observing, but Earth had sent a message: humanity would not be conquered easily. The clash of titans had proven that humans were clever, resilient, and capable of incredible teamwork. The battle was far from over, But the first victories had been won. Humanity had faced the impossible and had survived, ready to prepare for the next wave, the next strike, and the next opportunity to fight back. The aliens had underestimated human courage, and that mistake would echo across the skies of Earth for the battles yet to come. The aftermath of the clash of titans left the world battered but unbroken. Humanity had endured wave after wave of the alien hydro weapon and had learned to fight back in ways the invaders had never expected. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders gathered in underground command centers, analyzing the patterns of the alien attacks. They realized that the hydro weapon, while powerful, had flaws that could be exploited. Small irregularities in the waves, delays in the energy pulses, and predictable patterns offered humanity a chance to strike decisively. Across the globe, preparations began for the ultimate counterattack. Devices that could interfere with the alien energy were mass-produced, using whatever resources were available. Soldiers trained to deploy these devices in high-risk zones, while civilians assisted by guiding people to safe locations and maintaining critical infrastructure. Even children contributed, learning quickly how to recognize danger zones and warn others. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were taking control. The alien ships above had noticed the resistance. They adjusted their tactics, sending more concentrated and unpredictable waves, hoping to break human defenses. Yet every new strike was met with improved strategies, clever improvisation, and unwavering courage. In the oceans, engineers deployed massive energy disruptors, devices that created interference patterns in the hydro weapon, causing portions of the waves to collapse in midair. Soldiers and volunteers worked in perfect coordination, guiding civilians through the chaos, saving thousands of lives. Across the continents, humanity's efforts became more synchronized, almost like a single organism acting in unison. In one of the critical moments, a massive wave targeted the coastal city of Mumbai. The water rose like a green mountain, glowing with lethal energy, and millions feared the worst. But the humans were ready. Energy disruptors were activated, floating barriers redirected the water, and squads guided civilians to high ground. The wave struck with full force, but instead of destroying the city, it broke apart and flowed harmlessly into empty areas. The success sent a ripple of hope across the world. For the first time, humanity realized that they could not only survive, but also turn the tide against the aliens. Scientists discovered a way to amplify the energy interference devices, creating a chain reaction that disrupted the alien weapon on a larger scale. Military leaders prepared squads to deploy these enhanced devices near the largest concentrations of alien energy. The operation was risky. Failure could mean instant destruction for the teams involved. Yet every human involved understood the stakes, and courage outweighed fear. The deployment began. Squads moved across flooded cities, floating platforms, and devastated landscapes, activating the devices at precise moments. Green energy pulses from the alien weapon began to falter, flickering and collapsing in certain areas. Across the world, humans watched in awe as waves that once seemed unstoppable now dissolved into harmless mist. The aliens above reacted, sending a massive wave directly at the headquarters of one of the human command centers. The water struck with incredible force, but thanks to quick thinking, energy shields absorbed the impact, and civilians were evacuated in time. The alien weapon was losing control, and humanity's counterattack was working. In Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, coordinated strikes created interference zones, neutralizing parts of the hydro weapon and reducing its destructive capacity. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians worked together in perfect harmony. Every human action mattered, every decision counted, and every act of courage contributed to the victory. Slowly but surely, the alien ship's control over the water weakened. The massive waves lost their precision, energy pulses faltered, and the weapon that had once terrified the world became unreliable. Humanity had turned the aliens' own power against them. Across the oceans, waves that had struck fear into millions now dissipated harmlessly. Cities that had seemed doomed survived. People cheered from rooftops, floating rafts, and high ground, realizing that the impossible had been achieved. Humanity had triumphed over the deadliest weapon the aliens had unleashed. Yet even in victory, there was no room for complacency. Scientists warned that the aliens were still observing, still calculating, and still capable of creating new threats. But humanity's spirit had been revealed, strong and unbroken. Leaders and civilians alike understood that survival was no longer just about enduring. It was about proving that humans could adapt, fight back, and overcome even the most powerful enemies. As the alien ships began to retreat slowly into orbit, the world watched in silent awe. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed. The hydro weapon that had threatened extinction was now neutralized, a testament to intelligence, courage, and unity. Across the planet, communities celebrated small victories, tended to the wounded, and rebuilt their homes. The oceans, once glowing with deadly energy, returned to a calmer state, and life slowly began to heal. Humanity had faced the deadliest force it had ever known, and had survived. The aliens above had underestimated human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. Earth had sent a clear message. No matter how powerful the enemy, humans could endure, adapt, and triumph. The world had changed forever, but the people of Earth had proven that they were unbreakable. The triumph was not just of survival. It was a victory of the human spirit itself, a declaration that even against the most advanced alien weapon, humanity would never bow, never surrender, and never be defeated. The alien ships finally retreated from Earth, rising slowly into the sky, as if acknowledging defeat. The oceans, once glowing with deadly green energy, settled into their normal rhythm, though scars of the attack remained visible across coastlines and cities. Humanity had survived the deadliest hydro weapon in history, but the cost was clear. Cities were damaged, millions were displaced, and the world had changed forever. Yet amid the destruction, a new sense of unity and strength emerged. Communities that had survived worked together to rebuild, sharing resources, knowledge, and hope. Engineers repaired energy devices, scientists studied the weakened alien technology, and ordinary people contributed by cleaning streets, restoring buildings, and tending to the wounded. Across continents, humans shared stories of courage and ingenuity. From the flooded streets of New York to the canals of Venice, from the cliffs of Mumbai to the islands of Indonesia, people spoke of how strangers had become heroes, how ordinary citizens had saved lives, and how humanity had stood against a threat that had seemed unstoppable. Governments recognized the lessons learned. Military forces invested in new technology, inspired by the countermeasures that had neutralized the alien hydro weapon. Scientists expanded research into energy manipulation, water control, and defensive strategies, knowing that the aliens could return or that other extraterrestrial threats might appear. Humanity had gained knowledge, experience, and confidence from the ordeal. Children, who had witnessed fear and courage side by side, grew up with stories of resilience and heroism. Schools taught the events not as a tale of disaster, but as a testament to human ingenuity, teamwork, and unyielding spirit. The oceans, once instruments of alien destruction, became symbols of human endurance. Coastal cities developed new defenses, communities created emergency plans, and technology that had once been experimental became standard to protect against any future threats. Even as life returned to a semblance of normalcy, there was a quiet understanding that Earth was no longer alone in the galaxy. The alien ships had observed, calculated, and learned, and the galaxy beyond might also be watching. Humanity had proven it could survive, adapt, and triumph against the most advanced technology imaginable. Yet the humans themselves were changed, not just in skill, but in spirit. Fear had been replaced with courage, chaos with organization, and despair with hope. Ordinary citizens had become leaders, inventors, and heroes. Communities had discovered that unity was stronger than any weapon, and intelligence could overcome even the deadliest force. Across the world, memorials were built for those who had been lost, but celebrations also honored survival, bravery, and innovation. Humans did not just remember what they had endured, they celebrated what they had achieved. In the skies, the alien ships became distant specks, a reminder that Earth had been tested and had passed. Messages were transmitted silently across the galaxy by human satellites, documenting the resilience and triumph of humanity. Though the aliens had underestimated Earth, humans now understood their own power. Ordinary citizens realized that survival depended not only on strength or weapons, but on courage, unity, and the willingness to adapt. Across continents, new alliances were formed, global communication improved, and a sense of shared purpose emerged. Humanity had faced the impossible, yet had emerged victorious. Scientists continued to study the remnants of alien energy, uncovering secrets that could protect Earth for generations to come. Military leaders used the knowledge gained to prepare defenses, not just for water-based attacks, but for any future extraterrestrial threats. The legacy of the Hydra War remained in every home, every city, and every mind. Humanity had endured devastation, adapted in ways the aliens had never anticipated, and had triumphed where survival alone had once seemed impossible. Across the world, people whispered the same thought. Earth was stronger now, and humans were unstoppable when united. The alien ships had returned to the stars, but their presence had left a permanent mark on human civilization. People rebuilt their cities, strengthened their defenses, and prepared for the unknown, but they also celebrated the courage that had saved millions. Generations would grow up knowing that no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity could survive, adapt, and rise stronger than before. The oceans no longer represented fear. They represented resilience. Humanity had faced the deadliest weapon, survived the impossible, and proved to the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated. As the sun rose over a battered but proud world, people looked to the horizon with hope. The alien threat had been defeated, but humans knew that vigilance, courage, and unity would always be their greatest weapons. The Hydra War had ended, but the legacy of survival, triumph, and human ingenuity would echo for generations. Earth had been tested, humanity had been forged in the fire of alien destruction, and the world had emerged stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. The galaxy had watched, and humanity had sent a clear message. Earth was resilient, and its people would never be conquered.